Reboots have been common in video gaming for a long time now. Usually you see a series that's either gotten too convoluted for its own good, getting rebooted, or a series that just hasn't been around for a while coming back. Or just they felt the need to start something new and just kind of go off in a new direction. But normally all these cases I bring up are either 2D games going to 3D, or they're 3D games getting rebooted to other 3D games. This is a rare case of a 2D game getting rebooted and more or less staying the same, at least visually. This is Blaster Master Zero. Released in 2017 on the 3DS and the Switch by Inti Creates, this is a reboot slash lore fixing of Blaster Master. This is an attempt to take all the different contexts of Blaster Master throughout the years, out of the 5 or 6 games in the series, and kind of merge them all into one, including, weirdly enough, the lore from the Worlds of Power book that was written as just kind of an extra fluff piece to go along with the game back in the NES era. This stars the character Jason Frudnick, a powerful name, a genius in the field of robotic engineering, finding a frog. He'd never seen a frog before. It was a brand new concept to him. He captured it, put it in, I was gonna say a jar, put it in a cage, put it in a fish tank. When his interest in this mysterious creature peaked, Jason named it Fred. The frog's name is Fred. Good job, Jason. I'm glad you're a genius in robotic engineering, but don't know how to name a frog. To be fair though, this is essentially a lore grab from the original game as well. The kid's name was Jason. He had a pet frog named Fred. It jumped on a radioactive waste for some reason and then fell down a hole. But this time around, Jason finds Fred, and Fred jumps down a hole, but no radiation this time, so that's good. Probably means Jason won't die from the radiation, we're gonna assume. But instead we find Sophia the Third. Almost as if this vehicle with the name Sophia Third on the side was inviting him in. The door to the cockpit opened up. Jason looked for a frog and found a tank. Honestly, a pretty good trade. In order to bring Fred back, Jason hopped into Sophia the Third and set out on his adventure. Because I guess frogs travel very quickly. Little did he know, the strange phenomena were only ... just getting started. Blaster Master Zero! An officially licensed reboot with Sunsoft's blessing, but Inti Creates gets to kind of do whatever they want. This one is very, what's the word I'm looking for here? Very authentic to the original game. It is a reboot in content, but the game itself has the same structure. The layout, the levels are the same. If you've played the original NES game, you'll know where to go for most situations. But, and even a lot of the music will sound similar. But the story goes in some much more different directions based on the other pieces of Blaster Master knowledge out there. So let's quickly show you how to play first and foremost. We've got straight up control setting. I'm playing this on the Switch currently, but I'm using a Pro controller, but layout's more or less the same. Teases all the things you'll get to do in the future. Wall climbing, weapon select, change weapon, change angle of cannon, main menu, sub-weapon, enter and exit vehicle, jump and shoot, and move the player. You can also, the top view, change weapon, main menu screen, move player, weapon select screen, adjust direction facing, sub-weapon shoot. Pretty straightforward. On side view maps, if Jason is somehow unable to get back into Sophia the Third, you can stand on a save point and press X to call Sophia to that location. And if for some reason you can't even get back to it and can't reach a save point, which that never happened to me anytime I've played through this game, but it could to you, I don't know. You can just choose retry from the game menu, which will just set you back. So basically, like, if for some reason you get stuck, you'll be fine. This is a reboot of an NES game after all. But one thing that keeps messing me up is B is confirm, and A is back on Nintendo controls, which is very not normal. There's a lot of extra content too, but we're gonna touch on that later. Let's start a new game. Now, Blaster Master Zero for some reason has 27 save slots. It's got a lot of saves for some reason. So, I mean, we're gonna take advantage of that. Let's start with save 27. Game also supports multiplayer, but it's not as interesting as you might think. It's a neat addition though, but let's go with single player. let's start. Now entering Area 1. With a familiar startup screen. We shoot out of the cave, and then crash. Is this one of those underground forest areas they made during the last ice age? Hundreds of years have passed, but the ecosystem is alive and well. It would seem that the preservation system is still functioning somehow. Oh, better still keep my guard up, never know what could still be here. So yes, if you missed the plot earlier when I was talking about it on screen, basically, this is post-apocalyptic, because of course it is. Again, that's what you get for trying to combine all the different plots of Blaster Master into one. This is hundreds of years later after humanity was driven underground during a second ice age. They since regrouped back on the planet's surface, but then Jason found Fred. And now he's underground, finding out what all is happening down here. And apparently, it is a lot. But let's get to the basics here now. We already talked about Sophia's controls. Sophia can shoot forward at an angle if you're holding R, and straight up. That's pretty much it right now. You do start with a sub-weapon, a spread missile. And that's all you really start with right now. On the screen here, you show Jason's setup as well, because Jason does actually get out of the vehicle. And a map, which, if you're familiar with the original game, it really needed that. But it was an NES game, so what are you gonna do, right? So if anything, like, if you've played the original or you're curious about the original game, I honestly recommend this, because it's a lot more forgiving. Fred's signal was definitely being transmitted from the forest area. Receiver was being displayed on the monitor. I guess I'm pretty lucky that Sophia has a functionality like this. With the receiver, I'm able to get a general idea of where Fred is. I can't help but wonder how Sophia can track his signal, though. And again, I don't really know how anything in this machine works yet. Why would you take, I still don't get, okay, I get you want Fred back. You want the frog, but why would you, like, start driving a tank out of nowhere? Why do you see a tank and your first thought is, this'll help me find a frog? And secondly, why do you put on the uniform? Like, you put on the suit that came with it, and took the gun that came with it. Whatever. Fred's suit lets him crawl. And also shoot things. But Fred, why am I saying Fred? It's Jason. Jason is kind of a weakling. He has a pretty good jump, honestly, but if you jump any higher than 3 squares, you take damage. And if you fall from a distance higher than that, you die. So, the only fall damage in the game is when you're just Jason, which kind of makes sense. But then you get to the top-down sections. Now, Blaster Master itself was originally broken up into 2 different types of gameplay. The Sophia tank sections, which are just side-scrolling, and then these top-down sections. But Blaster Master Zero is more or less the same, but some tweaks to it. First off, you can shoot in 8 directions instead of 4, which you could in Blaster Master, which is actually a big change, believe it or not. The second thing is they've actually changed a bunch of mechanics. Originally, in the original Blaster Master, you had unlimited grenades. They are limited in this game. But as a trade-off, your gun actually upgrades depending on how many items you pick up, and they are noticeable upgrades. So far, we've got the original level 0 blaster, short range and low firepower. Grabbing one of those red capsules gives us the level 1 long range cannon. Fires long range shots. Level 2 is the penetrator. Shots pass through walls and terrain. And as you can see, there's another 6 upgrades past that. You'll also notice on the subscreen for grenades, there's plenty of room for more upgrades, which we will definitely be getting at some point. You can obviously see, again, all of Sophia's things, and there's also a map for the zones that Jason ended up going in as well. This is a big gun capsule. This will add 4 notches to your weapon upgrade. Also, this is the map, a map of the forest area. Press R on the weapon select screen to view. So this map shows us all of the zone we're currently in, which is really not that big, but it also shows all the Sophia areas as well, which is very important. So let's jump back here. Here's the key for it if you want to know what everything stands for. So we just know that there's an exit on screen. Let's look at the new guns we've got now. We now have the diffusion laser, short range. Damage increases as the target gets closer, so it's a shotgun. The auto, hold the shoot button to continuously fire bullets that scatter a bit. The reflect, deploy a shield that deflects enemy bullets. And the striker, a lightning-based shot that also hits nearby enemies. All right, so let's show off all the new weapons we got. Striker. Electric bolt, kind of useless in any other situation than fighting enemies. This is the shotty. Real good for clearing these up, which obviously, as you can see, is giving me more powers. This is auto. Machine gun. The longer you hold it down, the more it spreads, which is a bit of a bummer. But you're gonna see me using this one for a little bit till we get the real weapon we're gonna be using. Reflect, which is, again, useless unless you're being attacked, but it does look very nice. And we're back to the shocker. So let's switch to the shotty for now while we're cleaning this up and get some more upgrades, hopefully. Yellow pickups that look like treasure chests, those are your sub-weapons. That's me getting more grenades, and green is your health. The P meter is how much player health I have. The G meter is my gun meter. Shows me what level of gun I have. Every hit I take levels the gun down. So I just lost the ability to use the electric move, and now I'm back to the shield. So if you're used to the ones on the lower part of your list, you'll usually be fine. But obviously, the higher up the list you get, usually the better the weapons get. It's gonna take us a little bit to get to that point, so let's worry about that later. Grab this health, and take more damage, because I'm smart like that. You can grab the ladder by pressing up, and you're gonna need to know to do that, because of something that happens much later in the game. But that's a very helpful thing. But Jason, thankfully, heals when he gets into Sophia. Sophia's health is persistent, no matter what you've done, if you've gone in and out of zones. But Jason's can be recharged, no problem. Green canisters obviously heal up Sophia. You can see another one there. And there's another cave. Let's look at the map, because we actually picked up the new map here. As you can see, kind of big. Not bad for the first zone. Interesting, though, that there was a door right back at the beginning of the game there, and it definitely didn't seem like we could get up there right now. So we're gonna have to worry about that much later. Any cave you have not been in, obviously, is probably A, not gonna be lit up, and B, probably has one of these little red boss icons on them. In the original game, only one of these had a boss in them. They've added a couple extra bosses for this game specifically. So to kind of make your time spent as Jason make a bit more sense. And that was good use. Good trade-off. Let's switch to auto. And good thing, because we just lost another one. We're gonna be doing that for a while, don't worry. It may seem like a very frustrating thing to do, but eventually the gun system makes sense, and there's a bit of an insurance policy later on. One of the things I didn't point out too, holding R lets you strafe. This is gonna be incredibly useful, and the original did not have that, and I really wish it did. Okay, let's switch to the shotgun for a second, just to make clearing this up faster. We should be able to get a couple more gun upgrades here. At least I hope so. It may seem a bit tedious just cleaning up random rocks, but honestly, it usually pays off. Just, you know, be a bit more careful about walking than I have been. Being very cavalier for a bit. Our new weapon! We got a flamethrower! It's the flame. Hold the shoot button to unleash a flamethrower. Burns enemies for extra damage. So case in point, let's use it on this little eyeball. Not quite a kill, but you don't really need to try that much when you're using it. Not bad. Especially if you got a boss that, or like any enemy or like a boss, something that takes a lot of hits. Just gonna kind of whittle them down that way. But of course, that's not what we're gonna be using the most. If we can find it, we're gonna grab one more gun capsule. Really wishing I hadn't taken so many hits and lost so many gun upgrades, because we would have it right now otherwise. Nope, not here on this stage. All right. Next room that we get a gun upgrade in, we will have the gun we will be attempting to use for the rest of the run. Because honestly, it is the most powerful weapon and the most effective, to a point where they realized they made it too powerful in the original game, and then in the sequel, Blaster Master 02, they nerfed it heavily. Well, I say heavily, but it's still the weapon you want to use 9 times out of 10. But that doesn't matter. Let's go underwater with our tank, as tanks are known to do. Sophia moves a lot slower in the water, but you don't have to worry at all while you're down there. You just gotta worry about being able to move slow. Going over here, got a wall we can't pass. So we're hooped there. Clearly can't go that way, despite the fact that the map shows there's 2 doors that way. So let's go down here then. One of the major issues with Sophia is that its shots cannot reach things low on the ground. That is what the sub-weapons are for. But the sub-weapon obviously uses the sub-weapon energy meter there on the top left. It only recharges by grabbing these blue capsules. So you have to judge accordingly whether you want to use the sub-energy or just try to avoid the enemy. However, Sophia can't go everywhere. It is a powerful tank, but not the greatest thing in the world. So every now and then, Jason's gotta get out, and Jason can at least swim. He can swim and shoot. But obviously, on this screen, Jason only gets default shots. He can't use any of the gun upgrades he's got, which is also good, because if you take a hit, you won't lose any of the gun upgrades you've got. All right, let's see if we can get that last gun upgrade we need. Let's switch to Shoddy. There it is. We now have the gun we'll be using for the rest of the run, as long as we can hang on to it. The Wave. Fires a very powerful wide beam. The strongest multi-purpose weapon. The Wave beam is ridiculous. It goes through walls. It has a wide wave arcing shot. It is literally the best weapon in the game. If I take a hit, I lose it, and then have to grab another gun capsule, but until then, it's pretty damn good. Enjoy it while you have it. The one mean thing about the original Blaster Master, well, I say one, there's a lot of mean things about the original Blaster Master. It was so hard to hang on to gun upgrades in that game. This game makes it a lot easier, since they're a lot more accessible, and they add a couple extra things here and there that you can grab. But it's gonna take us a little bit to even get to what I'm alluding to. I think I don't even get that till the next zone, till Area 2. But we're gonna take advantage of the arcing shot of the wave and just kinda cruise around. Let's see what's up here. It's a save station. Step on the save station. Turn it into a Pokeball. And get ready to fight a boss, because 9 times out of 10 you see one of these, there's a boss. The Lair of Thousand Vios. This is just an enemy rush, nothing major. But it does introduce you to some of the enemies you are going to be seeing just regularly around the time. And notice how we've already lost our precious wave gun, and now we've got it back. Simply because we just were standing in the wrong place at the wrong time. The original Blaster Master was a lot more mean than this one. I honestly don't think this one is all that hard, all things considered. It's got some moments, but I think, like I said earlier, if you want to experience Blaster Master, you're probably better off playing Zero at this point. It's way more accessible for starters, because it's on so many more platforms. It's on, I probably said this earlier, I can't remember if this was in a previous take or not. This is obviously the Switch version I'm playing. It's on the 3DS, it is on Steam, and it is coming to PlayStation 4, or as of the time of this video being posted, I don't know when this is getting posted, it may be out. It's coming out at the end of June, and this is being recorded June 19th. Which I may be betraying myself, giving away how long it takes me to post these videos sometimes, by saying that. You can use your blaster alongside your grenades, but obviously grenades are limited. In the original game, you could just mash both buttons, and that was really how you fought literally everything. You just threw grenades and also shot your gun at the same time. And now we've got a new item. Thunderbreaker! A sub-weapon that shoots lightning from directly beneath Sophia. Looks like this chip can restore one of Sophia's functions. The data analyzed by that chip is being displayed inside my helmet. I get the feeling that there are more chips like this out there. Makes me wonder just who in the world made all this tech. Man, I'd love to dig into all this, but I gotta focus on finding Fred. I gotta find that frog. Let me get back in my tank to find my frog friend. All right, new weapon for Sophia, the Thunderbreaker. As I said, it fires directly underneath Sophia. Now, if you're familiar with the original Blaster Master, again, you might be confused because that was actually just a starting ability for Sophia. But it needed ammo. This time around, you have to collect the ability, but you have it as long as you have sub-weapon ammo. So, this is our triple missile. I keep going to pause. I can actually just hold down the left bumper to bring this up. So just L in this case. And now, we can do that. Very helpful with dealing with enemies below you. But honestly, the triple missile is your bread and butter for a while until you get the superior version of it. Which thankfully, they don't wait too long to get you that. What do we have left? I think we should have 2 more. Yeah, we got 2 more actual caves we can travel to. Then there's the entranceways. So let's get both of those out of the way. You might have also noticed that little green icon on there as well. We're gonna try to get that, but we can't until a little bit later. Sophia just effortlessly jumping around. Jumping tank does seem a bit broken to have, all things considered, especially one that seems to have nearly unlimited ammo. But then again, I don't know what you're supposed to do when you're fighting aliens and robots that seem to just drop bombs, or sorry, mutants in this case, according to the plot. We can't go that way. But we got a cave here we can pop into. Let's go send Jason out on another dangerous mission. Hey, there's that boss we just fought. Now it's just a normal enemy. Who could have seen that coming? Shock and surprise. You'll excuse me if I don't feel inclined to let any of these enemies actually shoot at me. And really, you shouldn't. I mean, if you want it, like, if you just wait long enough, they will eventually attack, or you can just pound them in the dirt. Eventually, the enemies do become an actual threat, but right out of the gate, they want to ease you into this. Way better than the NES one does, and I'm sorry, but I've been saying that a lot, but I'm gonna be saying it a lot anyways, because it's very obvious. Next boss. Drap Trappers. Health meter this time. Here is a Drap Trapper. You've seen plenty of them before. If you're using the wave, line up the point where all 3 arcs meet to do maximum damage. Also, throw your grenades. You might have noticed there's multiple Drap Trappers. They all have separate health, but they all share the same meter. And obviously, since they're one of the first bosses, piece of cake. It's just kind of leading you into the game here. All that for Ignition Bomb, a sub-weapon that sets a bomb that can be triggered by pressing the sub-weapon button again. Looks like this chip lets me use a new sub-weapon. Gotta figure out how to read my surroundings and use the best weapons for the situation at hand. Thankfully, every time you pick up a sub-weapon or any item like that, it just warps you to the end of the cave. In the original game, there were no bosses there, but also you had to walk all the way back. Which usually meant you lost your gun upgrades along the way, since every hit de-leveled your gun. And gun upgrades were not as common as they are in this one. I'm actually impressed when I played this for the first time how much more common gun upgrades were. Because the original Blaster Master is not that kind. Also, the original Blaster Master has lives and continues, so at least the North American one does. This one, unlimited continues, so again, another reason why I say much more forgiving than the original. But also, as you might have noticed, a lot more wordy than the original. The original game had literally no dialogue. There was a cutscene without words showing Jason and Fred, and that was it. This one will go into great details, but that's what happens when you have like 5 or 6 games worth of plot you try to combine into one, try to make sense of. And then a book too on top of that. I keep saying 5 or 6 because Blaster Master's been around, like, since the Famicom days. And this one, not only... So, the original Blaster Master in Japan was called Metafight. And it had a longer subtitle, and it was a much different game. It didn't take place on Earth, for starters, while every Blaster Master game has. The original game actually took place on the planet Sophia the Third. Hence the name of the tank. Because ironically, the tank Sophia the Third is not actually the tank's name in Blaster Master. It's just the assumed name because when you pause the game, it tells you that you're using Sophia the Third Nora MV01, I believe is what it says. Sophia the Third is the planet you're playing on in Blaster Master. Nora is the moon that you're from, because it's a space base, I believe. And you don't play as Jason Frudnick. You play as someone else. And so, the name officially of the tank becoming Sophia the Third and Jason getting the last name Frudnick, those both come from the Worlds of Power book. So it's interesting seeing like this book that happened to just be kind of written as a fluff piece to try to cash in on Nintendo games, actually became canon. But then again, like, Sophia the Third's kind of a badass name for a tank. It doesn't make the most sense, but it sounds badass. All right, anytime you see wall cracks, throw a grenade. Free upgrades. You're gonna be using that a lot, but you're also gonna find eventually, those cracks are only on one side of the wall, and you can't throw a grenade to destroy the other side of it. You've gotta actually take your time. You actually gotta get around and hit the correct spot. I'm not gonna lie, some of you are probably wondering why I keep just shooting items shooting the rocks for items despite having pretty much every upgrade at max. It's really cathartic. It actually feels really nice to do. It's very pleasing. It's like popping bubble wrap. You know, except with a gun. Don't actually pop bubble wrap with a gun though. That sounds dangerous as hell. And someone has probably already done it, haven't they? All right. On top of all the little smaller bosses they added to this game, the actual normal bosses from the original game are here as well, and usually you'll know them because Jason actually starts talking. What the hell is that? Some giant mutant? Damn it. I guess I gotta do this. Warning! The lair of the Forest Destroyer, Mother Brain. Apparently that wasn't copywritten. Say hello to Mother Brain. She's invincible. Now she's not. If you alternate your mashing, kind of a joke. I honestly thought I was about to get hit for a second there, and I forgot. No, wait. If I'm fast enough, I'm fine. So, sub-weapons are still good. Just be careful what your number is there. All that for the Hyper Shot. This power up Sophia's main weapon. You can now defeat some enemies that you previously couldn't. And with that, Jason gets back into the water, murders the local wildlife, hops back in Sophia. Looks like Fred's signal isn't coming from the forest area anymore. Let's see, looks like it's coming from some kind of residential area. That is actually pretty close by. Okay, let's get the show on the road. Now, Sophia has Hyper, level 2 shot. We can't actually highlight it, but now our shots are noticeably bigger. And they sound crunchier too. That good big crunch there. Now we can actually deal with these enemies a lot easier. Still can't shoot enemies directly on the ground though. So keep that in mind. If they pop up like this, you can still deal with them, but otherwise your shots are still gonna kind of drift away. Get rid of those 2 mines. I think. Yeah, there's like 1 square of the map. You don't actually have to get complete map square fill out, but I kind of like doing that. This game does have multiple endings. There are 2 endings to the game, but we will talk about what actually dictates what ending you get much later. For now though, let's just clear out the map as best we can. We clearly can't do all this up there because there was no platform or anything that we could see. We're gonna need to come back there much later. And the game is straight up telling you where to go next, which again, really wish the original game had done that. But it was an NES game. Companies were still learning what to do with video games. How to be more forgiving and stuff like that. I've actually been playing the original game alongside this one as kind of a test to see what differences the games have. Because I grew up playing the original Blaster Master, but I actually never finished it. Primarily because limited continues. It was not a kind game. Considering now that that game is just available for free on the Nintendo. On the Nintendo. Good job, John. On the Nintendo Online service. It's pretty easy and accessible to play now, but you'll kind of see the differences pretty heavily here. All right, this icon is a life up. Increases Jason and Sophia's life by 1. So now you'll notice on the left, or on the very far left, we've got a little lighter green there. That's to show that we have an extra health meter. And the same applies to Jason. A little white square marks off our second health meter. Each zone has one of those to pick up. What square have I not? Oh, there's 2 squares I've not done. Just gonna waste some time. We're pretty much at the end of this zone, and we're probably also at the end of this episode at this point. I'm gonna time it for time. 30 minutes? That's not bad. I think the start of Zone 2 is probably the best place to actually quit. And I am gonna leave that square there, because it's gonna bother me more than it's gonna bother you. I can just go get that off screen, it's not a biggie. And we're coming back here at some point anyways. Calling it now, I'm gonna completely forget that I told myself I was gonna come back later and do that, and I'm gonna say in the recording, why did I leave that there? Calling it now. Destroy the face we could not destroy earlier, and go through the tunnel. All that to reach a garage door that leads to Area 2. So this is a residential area. This place sure has seen better days. Looks like there's mutants here. Gotta make my way through carefully. The signal source is displayed on my monitor. Let's see where it leads. So this time around, we've got a little source signal in the top right. That's a radar trying to track Fred. And as you've noticed, since we're in Area 2, back to having no map. But we're gonna go find all that next time. For now, we're gonna tap out here, since this seems to be the best place to stop. We're gonna turn on our receiver. Oh, we already did that. Never mind, good. We've got Jason, honestly, at a pretty good spot right now. One thing I did forget to point out, sub-weapons have separate ammunition. So if you use all your grenades, you can swap to ignition, which are just the trip mines. Or these are remote bombs. Yeah, sorry, these are remote bombs. Sorry, I forgot they're not trip mines. They're not proxy ones. But yeah, we're pretty much set for now, so I'll see you guys next time when we continue the adventures of Jason Frudnick! Frog searcher. Professional frog namer. See you guys then.